we lived on the floor for years because we couldn't afford a bed. We just gave up everything to pursue this, what we thought was important, because it's always been in our hearts to make the land, make a relationship with the land. And to really do that and pour your heart and soul into it, a lot of times you got to give up material good.
You are now tuning in to the Roughnecks Podcast with your host, Cole Nixon. Much love.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Roughnecks Podcast. We are back with our first guest episode of the year. If you haven't yet, be sure to go and check out the first episode of the year, episode 215, which is called the all-new Roughnecks Roundtable, where Dante, Reno, and I sit down behind the microphones and chat for about an hour and a half. But joining me today is a very special episode that I'm excited to get into, but without further ado, Glenn, welcome to the Roughnecks Podcast.
Oh, it's great to be here, Cole.
Yeah, so you are the head rancher or CEO, if you rather. There's a lot of different titles you can call it, of Alderspring Ranch out in Idaho, correct?
That's right. Yeah, I kind of don't really gravitate to the CEO moniker very well. I don't know. I've been called a lot of things, and some of them not so good. But I guess my kids just call me the head guy. I'm the head guy. So.
But just to kind of kick the episode off, I like to allow the guests to give a background on themselves just to kind of fill it in because I could never do it justice. So kind of tell the Roughnecks listeners a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so let's see. I'm in my 60s now. So and that's an actually interesting place to be. I've been pretty much outdoors, active all my life. Started with a forestry degree, University of Maine. Ended up getting a permanent position as a full-time forester in the mountains around me here in central Idaho. We like to think that we have people believing that Idaho is just a big potato field. But actually, it's home to some of the most rugged country in the United States outside of Alaska. It's got the largest wilderness area in the United States outside of Alaska, and we live just outside of it. I can see it from here. It's an area that, like where we run our cattle up on the wild ranges of the mountains, about a 70 square mile piece of country, and just in 5 miles past our boundary up there, the wilderness starts, and it's about 110 miles before you run across another human habitation or settlement of any kind. And it's just rugged wilderness across the whole central part of the state. And we're kind of right on the edge of the central Idaho mountains. It's just virtually untracked, completely unpeopled. And so we live right on the edge of that, and it's kind of unique out of America because, we have very intact wildlife and plant populations. We have, just looking outside my window right here, I can see peaks that reach up to 11,000 feet they go above timberline. They're alpine tundra up there, a lot of alpine lakes, and they go all the way down to the valley here where we live at 4,800 feet. Where we live in kind of high desert because of the rain shadow, because we're surrounded by these mountains. So anyway, when I came out of Maine and took the job here as a district forester for the Bureau of Land Management, which is a Department of Interior agency, it kind of just blew me away because I was now handed basically the keys to about 1.3 million acres of forest land. And, it was just an incredible opportunity for a kid from, back east, going to school in Maine. And Maine was cool, but this was cooler because it was just so wide open and wild. And it was a fantastic job. My wife, actually, Carol, got a job in the same district. And we work together there. She's a full-time plant ecologist, botanist. She's got a PhD in plant ecology. And she and I were kind of a natural pairing because we were both plant and wild country geeks. Anyway, we're here working those agency jobs. I was a forester in charge of about 8 or 9 people, and we're managing timber across a vast swatch of Idaho. What you got to know about Idaho, like our county is the size of Connecticut, and it has about 6,000 people in it. And of that area the size of Connecticut, 96% of it is public land. There's only 4% of our county that's actually privately owned. The rest is all your land, Cole, and everybody in America, it's their land. It's open country. You can camp anywhere. You can go anywhere if you can get there. A lot of it, you'll have to be horseback or you'll have to be hiking because it's just extremely wild country that's braided with everything from wild rivers to snow-capped peaks. So anyway, we fell in love with the country living here, but we both had this agricultural background. We were both brought up on farms and ranches, working those jobs, getting us through college. And we kind of wanted to get back to our roots. So we bought a small ranch just in the next valley over the mountain range behind me here. And it was only about 60 irrigated acres. And we bought 7 cows, and that was the beginning of Alderspring. And we just had a little bit of money in our pocket from working those jobs. And now we've expanded the ranch. We bought another place here in this valley. And now we ranch on a total of 70 square miles or 50,000 acres. And we run right around I think it's around 700 head of cattle. And so it's been 30 years now doing that. And we're successful. We're profitable. We found a way to be profitable in agriculture. As you probably figured out, Cole, in the Midwest, I have a lot of friends in the Midwest, and agriculture is a tough nut to crack as far as being profitable. It's very, it can be really gloom and doom. If you talk to a lot of farmers and ranchers, and a lot of them don't say there's hope for their kids. We do, and we've tried to come up with ways that our kids, that we can expand our operation further. So our kids, we have 7 daughters over that time, and a lot of them are interested in ranching and going on. So it's really exciting for us because we're 60s and we're thinking transition, and our kids are all in their 20s and they're thinking transition too. So that's really cool because I can say yes, ranching is a good profession. It's a good thing to do. It's profitable, but it took about 30 years for us to really kind of figure that out, what that looked like.
So at the beginning when you guys bought that, that with the first 7 cows and everything, was this always kind of something that you had, like this was the end, like the goal in mind, or was it just kind of more of we'll see what happens with it?
It was totally, we'll see what happens. I never really, a lot of people will say to me, boy, you're living your dream. And, sometimes I'm living my nightmare, but Cole, it's kind of a funny deal because I in fact, I was talking to my wife this morning. I'm looking out the window, and we got this beautiful view of these huge mountains all around us, and there's most of our windows of our house. You can see, like from our bedroom, you can see 40 miles, and if you look through the east window, you can't see anything. As far as human habitation, and you could see 60 miles, and I said to her, you know what, this isn't my dream. I don't really have one. It's just, this is what we do, and we love what we do. Don't get me wrong, and we're super passionate about what we do. But I feel like if I felt like I was supposed to do something different, well, I would just go do that. So it's really, it's really our identity in terms of what we feel like we've been asked to do. For now, we've been asked to take care of this particular piece of land, this particular ranch, that 70 square miles of wild country. That's what we've been asked to care for. And until I hear different, or feel different, I'll keep doing this. And, because it's not easy, Cole. I mean, shoot, it's been just an incredible amount of work. And there was a lot of sacrifice. Just, ask my wife about how much sacrifice there was. We live in the middle of nowhere. We've given up friendships. You give up a lot of social interaction. And, you give up a lot of, material goods, or, kind of a soft life that a lot of our friends in more urban environments live. They live in this very sterile environment of, that's a nice lawn. They have nice sidewalks. They have a very nice, perfectly done house. All their lights work. They have beds for everybody. We lived on the floor for years because we couldn't afford a bed. We just gave up everything to pursue this, what we thought was important, because it's always been in our hearts to make the land, make a relationship with the land. And to really do that and pour your heart and soul into it, a lot of times you got to give up material goods. And so that's why I say sometimes it's a nightmare. I mean, some people say, wow, you're living in this beautiful place. It's such a beautiful dream. And it's not a dream. It's just the reality that we're in right now.
So you guys actually do something that's a little bit different than most ranches, like cattle, like in terms of selling beef and everything, because
Yeah.
you guys are grass-fed only, correct?
Yeah, 100% grass-fed. Yep.
So how common is that today? Because I'm sure you do get a lot of backlash probably on like social media and that kind of stuff from vegans and those type of things. But like
Yeah.
how is yours exactly different than like your normal store-bought meat?
So it's grass-fed, and it's 100% grass-fed. And a lot of people say, oh, well, aren't all cattle grass-fed? And they're right. For the most part, cattle are largely grass-fed, but the difference is this: about 97% of the cattle in the United States that enter the food supply are finished in a feedlot. And a feedlot is a series of concrete bunkers that then you put concentrate in, we call it. And concentrate could be ground corn, it could be flake corn, it could be dry distiller's grains, which is a byproduct of ethanol production. Could be soybeans, could be crazy stuff, Cole. I know of feeders that feed Skittles and bakery waste and newspapers and ground up chicken crap and ground up chickens. And one time I used to work seasonal in Indiana during the corn harvest, and fantastic people, Cole, don't get me wrong, but a whole different paradigm than what we're in. And anyway, I was down at the grain elevator down there in Indiana, and my job was hauling corn. I'd haul load after load after load of corn off the fields, off the combines, and I'd take the corn to the elevator and drop it off there, and we'd dump it, and it'd auger up into these huge grain bins that you see dotted all through the Midwest today, and then it would hit the rail, hit the rail cars, or would hit semis. And one time I was talking to Max. He became a friend of mine. He was the guy who, he was one of the owners. And I said, Max, where's all this corn going? And he said, well, it goes to either dairies, feedlots, or it goes to hog operations. And, these are all confinement operations, basically feedlots. The hogs are in houses. And so I said, well, that's the energy, because corn has a lot of energy, a lot of carbohydrates. I said, so Max, where's the protein come from? And he said, oh, for which animal? I said, well, the pigs. I said, oh, the pigs. Well, we feed them ground up cows. I said, whoa, ground up cows. He said, yeah, blood meal, bone meal, that's what they call it, but it's basically ground up cows, And I said, so what do the cows do for protein? He said, oh, well, that's easy. We feed them ground up pigs. And Cole, the guy's dead serious. So anyway, you can see how crazy this stuff is, when you get away from cows on grass. And that's what we want to get back to. That's always been our passion, cows on grass. and let's get them finished on grass the way they've been designed. They're designed to eat grass. Cows on corn. It's actually a time bomb, Cole, because when you're feeding them that grain diet, they get acidic, they get acidosis in their rumen, and you got to always balance that and buffer that, because what's going to happen is that gut of that cow is going to start getting ulcers in it. And if you didn't kill them because they were fat and ready to harvest, if say you wanted to say, oh, let's prop them up for another year because the market's not right, you can't do that because they're going to die. they're on the way to death, because the very thing that you're feeding them to make them fat is actually killing them. It's kind of like going to McDonald's all the time and saying, supersize me. The guy who does that every day, he's not going to feel good after a while. He's also going to gain a ton of weight, and he's also going to die. It's a time bomb. So anyway, we wanted to get away from all that. And so the other thing we did was we certified the entire operation organic, all 70 square miles. So we're currently right around 1% of all the certified organic operations in the United States. I'm not talking about cattle. I'm talking about everything. Say it's spinach, say it's berries, say it's milk. If you take all those acreage in America, 1 out of every 100 acres is on our ranch. And so it's covered quite a bit of country. And because of that, we're seeing a lot of the landscape change for the better, because along with organic, we just got a beef stick, like a meat stick, I might have one at my desk here. I don't. And, it's just a protein stick that we make just out of our beef. It's got very little else in it. But we just managed to get that certified regenerative through USDA. And it's because we proved to them that we are getting all these practices in place that we're actually regenerating the land. And that means we're changing the composition of the plants and animals out there. We're restoring creeks. We get about 55 miles of creek on Alderspring that are trout streams. A lot of those were very degraded when we started, and now they're actually very productive. They have trout in them again. They got beaver populations back. They got aspen regeneration areas, so they're really, really doing good. We're getting a lot of plant diversity back. But the coolest thing that really pushed the needle for us with USDA was that we proved through the numbers that our operation actually puts 4 pounds of carbon dioxide equivalents in the ground for every 1 pound of beef we produce. So, most cattle in the United States, because of the feedlot emphasis and growing corn and soybeans, just about all of them are carbon positive. They release carbon into the atmosphere. That means they're climate negative. They're actually hurting us. They're actually causing climate change. They're actually causing an issue in our atmosphere. And what we've done is we flipped that over, and we're starting putting that carbon dioxide back in the ground for every pound of beef we produce. So we're 100% climate positive. We're actually contributing to taking care of our climate for the future instead of releasing all this carbon dioxide. And, a lot of people think, well, they didn't figure out the cow belching, the methane part of it. We did. I get with some of the best scientists in America on that, PhDs from various universities about how to calculate all that. And they're right. Methane's huge. But we've offset it with this regenerative emphasis, putting carbon in the ground, building soils. And, it's exciting. And with that, Cole, the cool thing was we've been able to double the amount of cattle we run on our ranch. And it's just because that soil has come back. So, we don't use chemicals at all. No fertilizers, no herbicides, nothing, none of that. And because that green revolution that happened underground, actual green revolution of all these animals that live underground, we've been able to get our plants to double their production and double their ability to harvest sunlight. And when we do that, we've been able to double the amount of cattle that we've been able to carry on our ranch. And that's why I have hope. That's why we're profitable, Cole. That's like the short story of why we're profitable. It's because we can run more cattle than any of our neighbors could on a given acre. and it comes back again next year in spades. And we've been able to increase our herd. We just bought another ranch 2 years ago, and we're just scaling up, and we're scaling up because we can, and because we're excited about what's happening. So it's really cool.
Is it? You said obviously you're profitable and stuff, but like, so is it less profitable to do it? The cattle, cattle. What do you call them? I forget what you called them with the concrete floors and everything. But is it less profitable that way?
Like
Or,
feedlots.
yeah, is it
So,
less profitable in your opinion, or?
oh heck yeah, yeah. So the problem with it, Cole, is this: it's really hard to see. Like most of my neighbors grow calves. They're called cow-calf producers. So they have mama cows. They raise the babies to 600 pounds, put them on a semi. They go to a feedlot in Kansas. They're gone. They've left the ranch. Okay. So their crop that they're selling is their calves. Those 600-pound calves. We'll take them all the way to like 1,400 pounds, to like a USDA choice or prime grade before we slaughter them. And then, so that's quite a bit more time down the road. My neighbors, they're great producers, and these are solid people, Colt. So don't get me wrong. But their practices are 100% different than mine. So they're using chemical fertilizers, they're using herbicides. They have a lot of machinery. So their overhead is quite a bit higher than mine. We have a very simple operation. We have very little machinery. We feed most of our hay in the winter by hand. We're just out on a truck forking it. A lot of my neighbors will have like a machine that does it all for them. They're in their tractor and a t-shirt, and a lot of times, Cole, they're going by on the road and they're smiling at me because we're out there freezing our ass off, and they're in a t-shirt, and it is funny. Okay, it is funny, but I 100% believe in the power of human labor. And I still do it, at my age. I enjoy being out there. Even if it's 20 below zero, I still enjoy being out there with my cattle because I really feel like, for me to be out there physically with them, I'm learning a lot. Every time I'm with them, I'm learning something, So that's exciting. But so anyway, back to the cost. So what happens here is that for a cow-calf guy who's got a cow and he's got these calves he's raising, it's really hard to isolate whether or not you're profitable. It's hard in our operation because it's a long-term deal. You're buying bulls, they're inseminating your cows. 9 months later, you have a calf. And then 6 months later, you finally get your calf crop. So that right there is 9 plus 6 is 15 right there, 15 months. So you're over a year on turning over your initial investment. And that cow might live for 12 years. So now you got to figure out, okay, what's your yield over the 12 years? How many cows did she raise and how many cows did she lose? If she was a heifer, which is, an unbred cow, you breed her. Maybe she's going to lose her first calf. Maybe she might not take the calf. There's a lot of psychological things there. What about winter feeding? How much did that cost you to do? What did that equipment cost when you drove it off the place? Because, buy a new John Deere tractor today could easily cost you $250,000 one tractor. And that's no equipment behind it. You're not buying a hay baler that you need. You're not buying the swather that you need. You're not buying the pickup that you need to drive around your fields. And then you're not even paying for your ranch. These ranches are horribly expensive right now. It's horrible, Cole. I mean, I can't even... I know neighbors that are just dirt poor. Like I got one neighbor who's got a dirt floor, okay? And they got not enough money to ever refinish their house or take care of it, okay? And they're driving these beater pickups, and he has one decent pickup. All his hay equipment's junk, But I know if the guy cashed out today, he's worth $6 million. Okay, he's easily worth $6 million. Okay, the guy's super rich, but he's dirt poor. Because he it's all tied up in real estate. It's all tied up in cattle. So, the fact of the matter is, most guys and gals who are in ranching, I hate to say it, but I bet 80% of them in my country here in central Idaho, I bet 80% of them are going backwards. Let me give you an example. I just had a neighbor sell his ranch, just a few ranches up from me, and he's a Silicon Valley guy. Okay, he got a lot of money, and he made his money in Silicon Valley. Retired, bought this ranch, and he only gave like $1 million for it or something, or like 2 million. Pretty good sized ranch, one of the bigger ones in the valley. Anyway, he just sold it, and he got 7.5 million out of the deal. And his kid, this guy's in his 80s. His kid was thinking he was going to get the money. But anyway, so the check for 7.5 million comes in through the title company, and they start dispersing who gets the money. And his kid's surprised to find out that there's $6.5 million worth of debt incurred that was put on the land. So what these bankers will do, this is so ridiculous, okay? Because we've seen an exponential increase in land value over the past 10 years because they're not printing any more land, Cole. They're just not. There's only a limited amount of land out there in America, and they're not making any more. So because of that, a lot of wealthy investors for investment security are buying real estate. Like I just read about a guy in Colorado who owns 400,000 deeded acres right now. Bill Gates owns like 250,000 acres. Ted Turner probably owns around, at least 500,000 acres. So these guys are putting their money away, buying real estate because stock market could do anything. Right now, it's still pretty hot, but they're getting older and they get more conservative as they get older, and they don't want to chase like mutual fund investments or anything high risk, so they tie it up in land. So guess what? They go buy that property, and they're just tying it up, and as a result, there's competitive buying, which is raising property value. So anyway, banker sees my neighbor, and so his operators, his managers say, hey, we need a new tractor, or we need some new pickups, or maybe we need some new four-wheelers or UTVs or something, or maybe we just need to increase the cow herd to try to scale up, because that's what a lot of people have done around. Used to be when I was a kid, 200 cow outfit was a good outfit. But now you really can't make it unless you've got 700 mama cows, So you're going to have 700 cows. You got to have all the bulls to breed them. And then you got to have the horse flesh. You got to have all the four-wheelers. You got to have all that hay equipment. Then you're going to raise, 700 calves, conceivably put them on the market. And hopefully that's enough cash flow that you're going to be able to pay for all these things. So, I'm laughing because it's such a crazy, crazy treadmill to get on when you're in this thing. It's very complicated. But anyway, so these bankers just loan money at an appreciating value, Cole. And, this guy would say, I need a higher operating loan just to be able to operate. Could you give me that? Or I need to buy this equipment. And the banker would say, well, we're going to just put the lien against your land, against the value of that land. Because the banker's always going to win, right? They're always secure. So they know they're going to get paid. It's just a matter of time. Okay, so the banker is going to rent money to you based on the value of your equity. So as the equity base increases, they're going to loan you more money. They love you, because you're going to come in there and they're going to shake your hand and smile at you and say, well, here's a check for $250,000. That should get you through the year. Go continue to operate. Anyway, that's where all the money went. Long story short, that's where all the money went. It went into all this short-term debt that this manager had accrued, and there was no money left after $7.5 million. So it's because he was not profitable. He was losing money the whole time, and refused to acknowledge it. So it's really common. A lot of people, are not seeing it, and they feel like they're getting richer, and they are because of their equity base. But their equity base can only support so many cattle. So it's really complicated, but it's really like I just went to a school. It was actually a marketing event for the school to convince people to take the school. It's called Ranching for Profit. And the presenter got up there and he said, you know what? People give me a hard time about the title all the time. And he said, do you know why that is? And the guy in the back, there's about 60 ranchers in the room. He said, because ranching is never profitable. There's this bumper sticker you can see in middle of Idaho here in Texas, all the way up to here, and real common on ranch pickups. It said, my dream is to become a rancher and have $1 million so I could ranch it all away. And now the bumper sticker's changing. It's like, my dream is to be a rancher and have $10 million so I could ranch it all away. And it's happening. It's not a fallacy. It's true. So that's what Carol and I got hit in the face like with a ton of bricks. We found out in about 5 or 10 years that this was a losing money proposition. We were sinking. We were sinking bad. And we had to come up with another way to make money. And that's why we came up with the direct market beef business. We said, we're going to cut out the middleman. We're going to sell beef online, and we're going to sell it to people like you, Cole, people all over the country. They're going to buy it on our web store, and we're going to sell directly to them and cut out all that middleman so we can be profitable. And you know what? It saved our bacon. It saved our bacon. And now, in the meantime, the soils have caught up to our management, and now we've been able to double the cattle. And that's what actually truly made us profitable, is that we can carry much more cattle than we used to, and we're selling this beef at the same time. So it's been a real blessing for us, but it's a long road to figure it out. I've talked at a lot of conferences and and stuff about this, and it's one of these paths where I can't say to people, oh, you got to do this, because it was hard. And a lot of people don't want hard anymore, especially if they're my age. They're like, I'm sick of hard. I just want to cash out. I want to sell to a guy like Bill Gates, and I want to hang it up. I want to take my cake and eat it, and I want to buy a little house in Arizona or Florida, and my wife and I are going to retire there, and screw the kids. They didn't want to ranch anyway. But my problem is my kids want to ranch.
Yeah, that's definitely not as common anymore. Even here in Ohio, there's a lot of farms selling and shutting down essentially just because the kids don't want in it. But I think a lot of it is because you do see a lot of money losing game. It's not a lot of them aren't winning per se. I mean, so it's a very common thing.
Yeah. It's hard. And it's hard in appreciating land market, because I know it's happening by you too. Some of it is driven by subdivision, because, when you can grow houses on your place, you're going to make a hell of a lot more money than growing corn. It's a no-brainer. Of course I'm going to grow houses. I'm going to take the money and run. For us, it never used to be like this, but in this inflationary market, we got this 12% inflation index right now, and it varies. Sometimes, some days it's up to 14 or 15. Some days it's below 10. But we're probably averaging 12% right now in inflation. So, Cole, if you cash out your deal, say you're my neighbor over here, you're going to cash out your deal for $7 million. He's 85 years old. Say you got the money. Now, what the crap are you going to do? What are you going to do with that money? Because, if you figure it out, let's see, where's my handy dandy calculator? Here's one right here. Let's just do it right now, okay? Turn this baby on. Okay, clear. Okay, so at 12%, so you got your $7 million. Did I get the right amount of zeros? Yes. Times 0.12 equals. Cole, you're going to lose $840,000 a year sitting on that money. Just sitting on it's burning. It's on fire as soon as you take it, as soon as you take the money. And that's what kind of blows me away about these people. It's like, wait. Let me get this straight. You're going to take the money, and then what? Now you're embracing a whole new level of stress, because it's like, well, shoot, I don't want to lose almost $1 million a year on my money. I want to keep that. I want to put that in a mutual fund. Who are you going to trust? You don't know nothing. You're a corn farmer. What the crap do you know about investing money? You're going to trust Merrill Lynch? I mean, who are you going to trust, right? So it's a whole new stress level. And to me, that's no peace of mind either. I would much rather say, no, my wife and I are going to stay here on the ranch. We're going to be here with our kids and grandkids, and we're going to be in this legacy. and watch them and help them when I want to work. And, what a much more blessed life, because yeah, you can burn through some money and buy a new pickup or whatever, buy a nice house. And, maybe you're going to get a swimming pool in the backyard. But Cole, when I'm 60 years old, that's what I am right now. I don't really care about swimming pools anymore. I just want to hang out with my grandkids, put them on a horse, see how that works out, put my kids on a dirt bike with me. I ride dirt bike all the time. 60 years old, I'm on a dirt bike for thousands and thousands of miles a year. I can ride better than most young people I know at 60, and I'd like to put my grandkids on a dirt bike, see how that works out. Or, put them on a horse and we can ride, some days we'll ride 25, 30 miles horseback and get them a good seat in that horse. And, we do a lot of backcountry skiing. It's my passion in the wintertime. We drop everything and we head up to the peaks, and we do a lot of backcountry skiing. We do a lot of lift service skiing. We're ski freaks. We love deep powder, and we can ski it just about better than anybody I know. And we're addicts, So, Cole, what the crap would I want to move to Arizona for? I like it right here.
Yeah, the big thing here, especially, is the Intel moving into where we're at, and they bought up pretty much all the farmland in a certain area. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of farmers actually said no at first, but
Yeah,
Intel just offers a higher price. They just kept going up and up with their price until they got everybody to bite.
it's great. Well, what are we going to eat, Cole? If this
I know.
crap keeps going on, what are we going to eat?
I know.
We're going to buy our food from Brazil? We're going to buy it from China? China controls a lot of ag land in Africa right now. They're staging themselves to control the world's food breadbasket. They already own about 15% of the ports on the Mississippi River. Chinese interests own the ports. Our corn grain ports, the ports that haul our produce off the land on the Mississippi River in barges, are owned by Chinese people. I got a neighbor right here. I can look at his place. 700 acres. One of the richest lawyers in Shanghai owns that piece of property. They're buying our farmland because we're no longer profitable. And you're not going to be if you keep putting these inputs as petroleum-based products of, fertilizer and pesticides and herbicides and diesel fuel. You keep burning that crap, and instead of having cattle work for you, our emphasis has always been let the cow do the work for us. Let them harvest the grass instead of us harvesting the grass. I think what got me started on, I was talking to an old friend of mine, and he said, Glenn, there's two kinds of people who have cattle, and you got to determine who you want to be. He said, there's nothing wrong with either of them. But he said, you need to determine which one you're going to be. And I said, what's the difference? And he said, well, farmers own cattle. They bring the feed to the cattle. He said, ranchers own cattle. They bring the cattle to the grass. He said, what do you want to do? Do you want the cow to work for you, or do you want to work for the cow? And that really hit home. It really hit home because I was like, I want the cow to work for me. I want to partner with that cow and have her work for me. And when it's about changing mind. And when you get that mind shift and think about things differently, you flip everything over and you start looking at everything and you start thinking, how can I make the cow work for me here? In this situation, on this new ranch we just bought, how can I make the cow regenerate that ground and bring about a change in wellness in those soils and a change in plant diversity that's not only going to bless her as a cow, but it's also going to bless us with nutritional diversity in our food that we produce, So, these are hard questions that, we've lost our way in agriculture. We've really lost our way because we've lost, I think what it is agriculture has become this thing that's become an agent on an ecosystem, got this ecosystem of soil or grassland or whatever. We're going to start doing this to it. We're going to dominate this. We're going to subdue it. We're going to plow this. We're going to spray it. We're going to do whatever we can to make it bend to our will. And what Carol and I have realized over the years now, and it took a while to get there. And we're still not, we still have so much to learn. But we realized that if we thought differently about it and said, hey, wait, what if instead of that kind of arrogant mindset, that we said, hey, what if we join the ecosystem? What if we actually become part of it? And that's not some preservationist crazy shit, like we have 300 or 400 head of elk that'll come down and try to eat our hay from our cows and stuff like that. And, I don't put up with that crap. We're sharing an ecosystem. We're part of the ecosystem with them. We have a right to live here too. They can't take our feed. So, I'll run them off or whatever. They'll come out of the mountains and they'll come down here. And if, they're causing us a lot of trouble, I'll call Fish and Game and they'll send me a hunter every day and kill them until they're done, until they leave. And it don't take long to train a herd of elk. I had a friend of mine with 2,000 head of elk on his place. They started killing them, and it only took killing about 10 of them, to have those elk not come back anymore. But, that's part of just being a member of an ecosystem. That's not trying to change everything. I totally love elk and I respect them. We live with wolves on that range. They howl a lot of nights up there. They were eating our cattle really bad in the early, in the early 19 or 20 teens. Like 2014, we lost about $40,000 worth to wolves. And Carol and I wanted to put our heads together and try to figure out a way that we could coexist without having to kill them and without them killing us. And since then, we haven't lost one animal to wolves, and they're with us by camp. They watch us during the day. They come into our camp while we're gone. These are big dogs. These aren't coyotes, by the way. I talked to a friend of mine who just shot one. Because it's wide open season in Idaho. You can hunt them all year. We have a lot of wolves. And this wolf that he shot, Cole, was 175 pounds. Bigger than a lot of humans, okay? 175 pounds. And when he held it up in front of him, that wolf's head was like 3 times the size of a basketball, and 175 pounds. He could hardly pick it up and fully stretched out. He said, Glenn, the wolf was taller than you are. I'm 6'6". These are big animals. They're serious. They are serious top of the food chain predators, and we had to come up with a way to live with them. And, now we got mutual respect with them. And, it's just part of being an ecosystem member. It's humbling because you learn so much from these things, whether it be a plant or a bird or, bald eagle or beavers or lions. We have a lot of mountain lions. We have a lot of wolves. We have a lot of bears living with us up there. And we're part of that ecosystem. And now we have a mutual respect. That's really humbling because you watch these animals and they know we're there and we coexist. And, I think that's where agriculture lost its way. I think that we could take care. I feel like agriculture has become this thing where there's some portion or many portions maybe, but at least there's one major portion of life that we're hell-bent on killing. Maybe in the Midwest, in Ohio, it's soils. Killed all the soil biology. Now we just put fertilizer down. And soil is a medium to grow plants on. But for me, agriculture really needs to be this thing where we respect everything and where we either can sustain or enhance life that's all around us. That's what it should have been all along. But we've really lost our way. And I think that when we do that with nature, it'll pay us back. Right now, it's actually paying us back in cash. And I think that's what a lot of people don't get. Cole, I get people say, yeah, but you can't feed America, And let me tell you, if I took just the soybean ground, not even corn ground, and got the kind of stock densities we're able to run, there's about 86 million acres of soybean ground in America today, okay? If I just had those acres and stock them with the rate we can, we'd more than be able to sustain the amount of cattle in the United States. There's 96 million head of cattle in the United States. We'd easily be able to sustain all those cattle, all the beef needs, all the Outback steakhouses, all the supermarkets with grass-fed beef without even using corn. So it's just about rebuilding those soils and getting that soil life to work with you. So, where all those people say, oh, you can't feed the world with this, it's bullcrap. It's not true. The numbers aren't there. The numbers are real, and I'm seeing them right out my back door. And we live in a horrible climate. We're at 5,000 feet, man. Our growing season is like 5 months long. What can I do in southern Ohio or say, Arkansas or Alabama? They have incredible growing seasons, So anyway, if any of your listeners wants to challenge me on that, I'd take them on in a second because I got the numbers to prove it. So anyway, it's cool stuff, and it's definitely outside the norm. It's because we've been fed a line of bullcrap by the universities, by the chemical companies, by our county agents. They're all together, and because it's cold. There's so much dang money in the deal. There's so much dang money in agribusiness and the chemical industry and the seed industry. They're all in bed together, and they've all fed all these farmers a bill of goods. These farmers are starving to death, not making money. But let me tell you, Monsanto, DuPont, Bayer, who owns Monsanto now, they're all making seriously good money. Our congressionals, a lot of them are making seriously good money. It's because they get nice campaign contributions from all these guys. The universities getting tons of research dollars for chemical agriculture because it's worth so much money. It's, just one drug company, Merck, that supplies a lot of animal pharmaceuticals. They also did a bunch of mRNA vaccines during COVID. They're a $65 billion company, and they're not the biggest one. There's just an incredible amount of money tied up in this thing. So the inertia, the momentum of chemical agriculture is great. And, it's scary from, certain standpoints, but on the other, I can give true hope to somebody and say, you know what? The health of our ecosystem is enough to sustain us, to sustain human life, even as it is, So it's exciting.
It's funny that you actually brought up the wolves because we were just talking about this on episode 215, and I was like, I've never seen a wolf in person, but I know like coyotes, and I know they're a lot bigger than coyotes. And my buddy was like, how big are they? And I looked it up, and the average male is 180 pounds, and he's like, I'm 180 pounds, and I was like, yeah, and I was like,
No,
and they're
exactly.
tall,
Exactly.
they're huge animals.
Yeah, they're massive.
I actually wanted to ask your thoughts on the wolves being released in Colorado, if you have anything on that.
Yeah, so they did that to us in the 90s, Cole. At that time, I was still firefighting. I was a wildland firefighter, and I came off this fire when my crew, I was on a 20-man crew, and we came off this crew, and our trucks came into fire dispatch in Salmon, Idaho. And we've been spiked out on that fire for over a week, and we come into this deal, and we pull our gear. We're all wearing yellow and green Nomex clothing, and we all got Nomex packs and stuff, and we're dropping all our packs in a big pile, and we're just waiting for rides to get home. And so we come in. This dispatch area has a big, giant drive-in bay where fire trucks will go in there, wildland fire trucks will go in, and that's where all our gear is piled up. And on the other end of the bay is another big overhead door. And there's these 3 crates, these big, giant aluminum crates with holes in them. And there was a guy poking around by the crates. And I kind of sauntered over there while I was waiting for my ride and said, hey, so what's in the crate? And he said, go take a look. So I get down on my hands and knees and look through the holes in the crate, and they're about this big, and I just put my eyes there. And right on the other side is this female wolf. I knew it was female because it said female on top of the thing. It's this female wolf. And she and I are looking at each other about 12 inches apart. And we had already started running cattle then. And we always had wolves, but never very many. And now the Fish and Wildlife Service, part of U.S. Department of Interior, was hell-bent on releasing these wolves in central Idaho and trying to build that population up. So they went and live trapped a whole bunch of them in Alberta and British Columbia and brought them down. Anyway, she and I just stared at each other for a little bit. We just made eye contact. We just locked eyes. And I just looked at her and I said, are you going to change my life forever? And that's the deal, Cole. They do change your life forever when you're running cattle. Because we almost quit. When we lost that $40,000 worth of cattle that year, we come home licking our wounds. And we said, no more. We're not going to run on that range anymore. It's over. And I had a friend of mine at the Nature Conservancy at that time. We partnered with them on all kinds of projects. I got no bones to pick that organization. I can't say anything but good about them because they've been fantastic partners. They allowed us to get salmon 900 miles from the Pacific Ocean back onto our ranch to spawn here. They created all kinds of opportunities for partnerships. And I called this friend of mine down there in Nature Conservancy. His name was Mark Davidson. I said, Mark, I don't know what we're going to do about these dang wolves, but I want to do something. And he said, well, just let me know what you want to do, and maybe we can partner with you. And so Carol and I actually started looking at old trappers' accounts, and, from the 1800s, and found wolves had always been here, and it was about that time we were thinking that, I don't have any problem with people hunting wolves. I got a lot of friends who are avid wolf hunters. So it's not like I'm against it. I just didn't want to kill them. That's part of what we do, because it was kind of against what I believed our position should be in these ecosystems. So we came up with something, and, it went back all the way to, even reading stuff in the Bible. If you read stuff in the Bible, David was a sheep herder. A lot of early people in the Bible were sheep herders. The shepherds on Christmas, if you remember, watching their flocks by night. Why the crap are they watching their flocks by night in the hills outside of Bethlehem? It's because there's predators out there. And if they're not watching them, dang predators are going to eat them all. I got a friend of mine named Fred Provenza. He's a PhD, retired from Utah State University. He penned a book with a friend of his from France. It's called The Art and Science of Shepherding. And so these guys in France, they started to deal with predators like wolves and bears, and because they got a real kind of green movement there that's releasing all these animals back in the wild. And so these shepherds, just by their physical human presence on the ground, have really, really curtailed predator loss there. So I said to Carol, if people could do it for, this is one of the oldest professions, it turns out, Cole. So if people could do this for, millennia, why the crap can't we reinvent that here on horseback? Why can't we do it right here on our range, on our 70 square miles we run on? At 70 square miles, I just want to tell you, it's a big chunk of country. It's when you're on top of a mountain up there, a lot of times the grazing country we run on, you're looking out there, it is far as you can literally see. It's to the horizon where the land meets the sky, over mountain and valley, river and mountain and valley and creek and canyon, all the way up to alpine tundra. It is as far as you can see a lot of places. That's part of our grazing country. It's a big piece of real estate. That's why these wolves like it up there, because it's wild. It's just wilderness. So it's like, you know what? If we can get up there horseback and herd these cattle and live with them and start living with them full time, where we have a cow camp up there all the time, moving with the cattle all year, I think we could keep these cattle safe. And I called Fred about it, the doctor guy who wrote that book, and he said, I think you can. So I said, you know, we're going to have to learn how to do this, because it's not a no-brainer, Cole. We're really good as cowboys in the West, riding horseback all day, moving cattle. The difference is I need to move them with their heads down. Most cowboys are really good at moving those cattle with their heads up. So we'll have 400 or 500 head in a herd, and they got their heads up. Guess what? If their heads are up, I am not making any money, because they have got to gain weight. This is our finished cattle. You know, we raise organic grass-fed finished beef, kill about 400 of them a year. And if I don't have their heads down all the time gaining weight, I'm not going to make it. You know, I'm not going to make money if I can't get them to gain weight. So we need to relearn everything about stockmanship. We just need to relearn, you know, even like the nuance of the body position of your horse related to those cattle. It can make a huge difference, Cole. If you turn your horse's head to face the cattle, to stop eating. If you're too close by 1 foot, you get into their flight zone, 1 foot of difference with your horse, they will stop eating. So there's all this nuance in cow language, you know, and this fit in right with what I'm talking to you about being part of an ecosystem. Those cows now are part of an ecosystem up there, and we're their partners. So now we can move them all day with their heads down, grazing. But it was only because Nature Conservancy partnered with us for 3 years, and they said, we'll give you $25,000 a year to figure this out, to hire the people you need to figure this thing out. And they really helped us do it. And we're still learning. We ain't there yet, but it's made a huge difference. And because of that, we haven't lost an animal to a wolf. I had friends who talked to me 2 days ago, met him in town. We're at the body shop. He had a brand new Ford F-350 pickup, a beautiful Lariat pickup, 2023. Hit a bighorn sheep with it on one of the bends down here along the river. Just, you know, and what's crazy is when you spend $90,000 on a friggin' pickup, the body shop looks at that and says, yeah, we'll fix it. Ain't even near total, even though it's totally thrashed up front. And, you know, my wheels are turning because I only drive old 7.3 diesels. You know, that's it. But anyway, and they're all 20 years old. But some are really nice pickups yet, but they got enough power for me to ranch with and pull cattle. But anyway, he bought it was $85,000 or $90,000 pickup. Anyway, I said, holy cow, that thing looks about total from my perspective, you know, with one of my older pickups. Because I had just had one fixed there the same day I was picking it up. And Ben says to me, well, it's not how it quite works with a $90,000 pickup, Glenn. I said, well, what kind of body damage are we talking here? What did that bighorn sheep do? He said, first of all, let me show you. So we go into the back of the pickup. He's got the sheep. It's a full-size ram bighorn sheep with almost a full curl laying in the back of his pickup. And I said, what are you going to do with that? He said, I'm going to eat it. And it's illegal to just throw it in. You got to report it to Fish and Game. They'll let you have it if you hit it on the road. Anything. If it's an elk or deer, they'll let you have it and you can eat it. So he was going to eat it. But, and then I went to run the pickup and it was totally hashed up there. And, he says, you know how much damage that was? I said, no idea. He said, $25,000 of damage. But, you know, can't total it because the pickup was 90. So anyway, that was a rabbit trail. But he had just killed a wolf the day before on our grazing range. You know, a lone alpha male, or not, he wasn't an alpha yet. He was a lone male, just wander across what we call Bear Basin up there. He kills one, you know. So, I mean, they're just alive and well up there, and there's a lot of them. People estimate that there's 1,500 to 2,000 wolves just in our in our county and the county next to us. So there's a lot of them. And, for the most part, they never get to meet a human because there's nobody up there. It's just wilderness. So going back to the question, I haven't forgot it. It's Colorado. You know what? I'm like, there's a way to coexist. And if you would figure out how to run your cattle up there in a way that's part of an ecosystem instead of acting upon it, let's join the ecosystem, become part of it. I don't think you have to kill wolf one in Colorado. Recreationally, there's people who love to hunt wolves. I love these people. They're my friends, and I'm okay with it. I'm not against hunting wolves, but I am against having them, collide with us on our grazing and saying, no, there's no room for you to coexist in this ancient ecosystem where you were here before us, So I think, yeah, Colorado is, it's going to really hit the fan down there, controversy wise, just like it did in Idaho. But I think there's a way to do it. And, a lot of people think we're crazy, Cole, but they can think that. I don't care, because for me, I think this is right. And it's respectful to live in coexistence with them.
So how many people, you guys are still doing the campouts and stuff, how many people interns do you have along with your family?
So we're just debating that today as to what we're going to do. So we don't know exactly how many we're going to pick up this year. So it is our family, but I got also I think 6 or 7 guys and gals that'll come back this year to ride, and they're paid, because they got expertise. They were interns last year. So a lot of them we just hire back as a paid person because now they know what's going on. They got the horsemanship skills now. And the really tough thing to find in today's world is the stockmanship skills that I really need for those cattle to gain weight, and be wise how to handle them in super rough country. Some of this country is just flat vertical. Most people I put on horseback up there are not okay with it because you're on horseback on an ancient buffalo trail that's this thick, this wide. And if that horse missteps and rolls, you're dead, Cole. I mean, there's no question you're dead. We have this joke, with these new interns. We'll put them on there and they're freaking out. You can see, I mean, some are almost crying because they're scared, and one of the kids or I will turn back and we'll say, "Trust the horse, Luke," and we'll just keep riding, spin off from Star Wars, trust the force, Luke, so you can trust the force, but you can trust the horse. And our horses have all been, they've been up there for years and they got good solid feet on them. And you know what? They got 4 feet on the ground. You only got 2. So they got 2 up on you and they know what the crap's going on, and don't stress them out at all. They don't care because, if a horse could talk to one of these interns, a horse would say, "What do you think? What do you make me for? Some kind of idiot? I'm not going to misstep and lose my footing on a hill like this. You got to be an idiot, So a lot of people have trouble trusting the horse, and but you kind of sort through them, and they get their feet under them and get wise to it after they start riding. And but it's a horribly rough piece of country, and it's extra horrible if you're trying to chase cattle on it, and trying to keep the herd together. So, yeah, it's a lot. And a lot of days aren't fun. This year we had a lot of rain up there. And here's what it looks like, Cole. You get up at 6 a.m. or something like that. You cook breakfast in the wall tent and it's pouring. Okay. And your horse is out there, they're grazing. So you go catch your horse in the pouring rain and you bring them over. They're soaking wet. Your gear is still soaking wet from yesterday. Okay. And you're going to get on that horse and break out of camp around 8 o'clock in the morning, right out in the pouring rain with 400 head of cattle. And you're going to take them to some of the best grass on earth. And cattle don't care. They don't care nothing about the rain. Horse is not super happy in the rain all day, but it just rains on and off pretty hard all day. You're wearing a slicker. Let me tell you, I don't care what kind of slicker you're wearing and what kind of hat you got on. You know, when you're out there fully exposed on back of a horse all day, you're going to get wet. It's not if, it's when. You know, I wear leather chaps over my entire legs, and I got, you know, an oilskin slicker, and got cowboy boots on. It's going to start soaking through, and then you got to do it again the next day. You know, you don't have a change of gear. You go to bed, and yeah, maybe you can put on some clean underwear and some socks that are dry, but maybe not. Your jeans could still be soaked because you got your other pair. Because I tell everybody to bring a change of something up there. So anyway, you're putting on wet clothes by day 3, okay? And it starts wearing out. Here's the other thing, Cole, that takes a lot of people a lot to get used to. You're running these cattle at 7,000-8,000 feet. And when you get a rainstorm in the summer up there at 7,000-8,000 feet, that rain is coming from 40,000. A lot of times it's mixed with hail. And the rain is ice cold. It's not like a warm rain in Ohio where you're out there wearing a pair of shorts just walking around in the rain thinking, wow, this feels good on a hot summer day. This is mid-July, and it might snow. And we've had snow a lot of times in July. It's colder than crap. If you don't have gloves, like I tell these kids, make sure you bring gloves. And it's like July, and they're thinking, you know, what? And the fact of the matter is you're going to freeze your tootsies off. If you know, some of my kids pack hand warmers in July because they got to put them in those gloves because otherwise your hands turn to ice. That rain's coming down at 38 degrees. You're heading for hypothermia in a hurry if you're not ready for it, you know. So and then the next day it'll be 100, okay? And you're dying. You're dying of heat exhaustion. I had a kid up there 2 years ago, almost died from heat exhaustion. I thought I was going to have to life flight him out of there. He just wasn't drinking enough water, you know. And a week before that, he almost froze his butt off because it started to snow. So, you know, the weather alone, along with riding a horse for 16 hours, if your butt's not conditioned to it, it's not fun times. You know, a lot of times it's not fun times. It's just a heck of a lot of work. But, you know, what's interesting, Cole, is every one of these kids that come up here, and I call them kids because I'm 60 and they're 19 or 20. They're younger than most of my kids. Every one of these kids comes up here, and if they can stick it out, some quit, some leave, they can't handle it. They lose it. They just totally lose their crap. And it's psychological more than anything. That's the number one thing we interview for when we do these internship interviews. We're making sure they're stable up here. If they do weird mannerism stuff or start acting weird, for one thing, they ain't going to get along in cow camp because they're stuck in a camp for a week with like 3 other people who are going to end up hating them or try to kill them because they're wingnuts, you know. I mean, they're just out there, you know, right? If they're coming up with weird stuff and they can't fit socially, that kind of stuff grates on you, especially when everybody's exhausted. You're cooking together. You're all, you know, communally cooking meals together and stuff. And if they're whack jobs, nobody likes a whack job after 3 days with them, especially if it's raining, okay? So they got to be that way. And they all got to be emotionally stable in their head. So some people have had to get, you know, I'd get a text on the satellite because there's no cell service up there. That's the other thing. There's no freaking Instagram up there, dude. You know, in a lot of those places, there's nothing. You can't get on TikTok. You can't check out your friends on IG. You're toast, okay, as far as social media goes. And a lot of people are so addicted to phone, they can't even quite function, you know. So anyway, it's, you know, that's why some of these kids crack. They lose it. You know, they just lose it, and I got to get them out of there. And but now we're pretty good. I mean, nobody quit last year. We had a great crew, and it's because we filter them pretty hard. We had, I think, 350 applicants, and we filtered them down to, last year, I think, was about 16, 20 different people. And, you know, both guys and gals, all walks of life. I mean, 100% all walks of life. You know, I've had, you know, ethnicity all over the board, you know, Fantastic. It's super interesting because you'll get these people from an absolutely different culture than what we're accustomed to. They're from Cincinnati, or maybe they're from Alabama, or maybe we had a kid who's living in Scotland last year. We had 2 kids from Carolinas. And so it's just really diverse mix. We get Valley girls from California, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, they're a Valley girl, but they pull it off. It's all about what's up here, and whether or not they're tough enough. And some of them, I think when I pick them up at the airport, I think, man, crap, they're not going to make it. They're just not going to make it. But my kids do all the hiring, and they filter them pretty close. And they surprise me. Some of these kids, they pull a rabbit out of a hat, and it's like, holy smokes, they made her, So, but at the end of it, Cole, every one of them's changed. They're a different human. They are no longer the same. A lot of them cry on the way out of here. That was the hardest thing they ever did. But they're crying it because they loved it. It got in their bloodstream is what it did,
Yeah, I've actually had one of your interns on the podcast, Matthew Ware. He was on the podcast. Yeah, so that's actually where I originally heard about you guys, and he had nothing but good things to say about everything. And
Matt was great.
So when he was explaining everything you guys do, like obviously not as in deep a detail as what we're getting today, but it was like, wow, like the things like he just took in all of it, and he said it was one of the best experiences of his life.
Yeah, no, he was great. And he was one of those guys who come here and he didn't know anything, and we actually hired him the following year, and he just come a long ways. He just really, really changed. It was just foundational. It just changed his foundation inside him about how he thought about everything, whether it be the wild country or the horses or the plants or other people. It just really changed. It got a hold of him. It's pretty cool.
But I also wanted to ask you kind of about, the campouts themselves. You said there's like 3 to 4 people usually. Is it like a rotation, or how does it work exactly with them?
So it varies, Cole. Like this year, we're actually thinking of switching things up a little bit. So we're thinking of having like a total of like 8 people in a camp at a time. And there will be a crew in the morning and a crew in the afternoon. And this is just to break the days up a little bit so they don't become so grueling, because some days it's not unusual to have 20 hours, and people just get wore out. They're getting 3-4 hours of sleep on rough ground. They're all sleeping on the ground. And you got 400 head of cattle sleeping right next to you. A lot of people aren't used to that, so they don't sleep good because cattle are always making noise. The horses are making noise. There's noises in the night, whether it be owls or wolves or whatever. They eat good, but even the food is super great, but they can't eat enough. They just can't eat enough. They absolutely fill up, but they're processing so many calories that they can't keep up with how much they eat. They physically can't get enough down of them because it's so demanding. And so this year, I think what we're going to do is have first crew get up at 4:30 a.m., saddle up their horses, get the cattle out of there before sunup at 5:36, do the morning graze. These cattle are they're very habit oriented. So you can do a good morning graze where they really fill up, and somewhere on the mountain up there, you'll just find a spot that's got some level country, settle them cattle in there. And more often than not, early afternoon, they lay down and they just chew cud. They just hang out and rest, get a drink. Then I was thinking what we could do is crew B comes in and replaces them. Crew B rides to 10 o'clock at night. Okay. Crew A just takes a siesta, takes care of their horses, turns them out on pasture. And these camps, they move every week, by the way. They're in new places every week. As far as like the total mileage, Cole, we've put in GPS in saddlebags to see how far we go. Over the course of the summer, it's 600 miles. We ride 600 miles. Cattle walk 600 miles. So, so you're always seeing new country all the time. You're covering, you'll go through a canyon and over an entire mountain range and drop into the next valley, and you'll see this huge creek down there. It's beautiful, and I can't even describe it. And maybe it's in sagebrush in the low country, and you see cactus. Then toward the end of summer, you're in high country. It's timber. You can't even see more than 5 cows in. And you're herding them through this timber that's so thick, you can see 5 head out of 400. That's it. Because the timber's so thick, you can't even see anybody else on horseback. It's you. And you just kind of know, you get a feel of where you are in relative to everybody else. And you just get a geographic sense in your head. Basically, it's your own GPS in your head of where you are on a mountainside that's just totally thick, dark timber for miles and miles and hundreds of miles after you. And somehow you come back to camp that night with all the cattle. And it's usually my daughters that are crew bossing. We have some other good people now that are crew bossing too. But they know that country almost better than I do. I mean, you can mention a rock out of 70 square miles, a specific rock. I'll say it to Melanie. I said, you remember that one rock that has that pinkish color to it right next to that big pine tree? And she'll say, do you mean the one up the head of Big Hat Creek just before you drop into Iron Mountain? I said, yeah, that's the one. And she'll remember it. She'll know the rock. I've been with people in New York City a lot of times. They know where every little grotto in New York City is. Really good restaurant over here. Take Subway and get in there. They'll. It's like like holy smoke! You really know the city. That's what it is for these kids up there. They know every rock. So they get a really good sense of what that looks like. So anyway, they're up there for a week at a time. They do crew A and B for every day of that week, and I'm hoping that way they don't get burned out as bad. Because crew A can cook crew B dinner, and crew A doesn't have to wait around for breakfast. They stuff it in their saddlebags. They make something the night before, and they're gone. Crew B then just comes in, takes care of horses. Crew A is already gone to bed. They take care of the dishes, and they're in bed by midnight, because they don't got to get going until the next day at 10 in the morning. Crew A's gone. They're sleeping already. Their tents are a little further away, and they got to wake up at 4:30 and get going, So anyway, that's what it looks like. Usually, a lot of times you got to ride in horseback to camp. You can take a stock trailer up there a ways, but a lot of times you're so far in the middle of nowhere that's horseback to get to camp. So you tie your gear, your food on the back of a horse, and off you go horseback to get to camp. So camp is just a series of canvas tents up there in the middle of nowhere. As far as water, after we stopped grazing these creeks, because the habitat, Carol and I, she's a riparian ecologist, my wife. She was like, can we do something to never graze these creeks again? And so we stopped. We stopped grazing them because we have full control over cattle. So you got 55 miles of creek up there. And Cole, you can walk up to any of those creeks and you can cup your hands and drink out of them. They're that clean now. Used to be they had shit in them. They had, all kinds of debris in them from cows. The banks were cut. That's all healed. You can drink out of dang creeks now. And so that's what we drink. We drink out of the creeks. We don't filter the water. We don't purify it. Just drink out of the creeks, drink out of springs. So we usually put camp near one of them where we can drink and where the horses can drink and where the cattle can drink. So water is kind of governing influence on where we put those camps. We just got to have good spring flow or good creek flow, so.
But you guys don't just do beef either. On your website, you guys have lamb, pork, salmon, dairy, all of it. So do you raise all that yourself as well, or how is all that?
So the salmon is a friend of mine who fishes in Alaska in Bristol Bay. And at first, he was like, what relationship do we have? And I said, actually, we're very closely related. And he said, why? I said, because your salmon, they're all wild fish in the wild open ocean of Bristol Bay in the North Pacific and the Bering Sea. It's the wildest sockeye migration on Earth. Okay, they don't use hatchery fish at all. A lot of hatchery fish are in the Copper River fishery. They have a lot of hatchery fish in that fishery. These are all 100% wild fish. They've actually spawned in the rivers. And and he said, well, what's that got to do with you guys? And I told him how we run our cattle. And he said, you basically have wild animals. You're basically running wild animals up there. Because you're not putting them in feedlot. You're not farming them. You're not feeding them corn. You got wild animals. He said, I get it now. Wild salmon, wild beef. And I said, that's exactly why it's a pairing. So we got together, it was about 4 years ago now. So we do that. So that's the salmon. And then the lamb, yeah, we raise. It's 100% organic grass-fed lamb. And then the pigs, my son-in-law raises, and my daughter, they're on the other side of the ranch. They pasture their pigs out there. And so they're 100% pasture pigs. They're on pasture their whole lives. But pigs don't do well unless they have a nice energy flow. So we have a friend of ours that grows wheat here in the valley. He buys wheat grain from him and grinds it, feeds that to the pigs. So their diet is about 50-50, 50 this local wheat and 50% grazing our pastures. So that's the pigs. And they're dang good. I mean, Nicole, it's the best bacon I've ever had. We're almost sold out. They really fly out of here. Same with the lamb. We're almost sold out of the lamb for the season. And then the dairy, there's a sheep dairy down the road from us, a friend of ours, and he runs a raw milk sheep dairy down there. And I tried his cheese and I loved it. It just was so good. And a lot of people who are lactose intolerant or stuff like that can't handle like cow dairy, but they can eat sheep dairy all day long. So a lot of the people who buy from us, Cole, a lot of people buy for the steaks because they say, our steaks are the best they've ever had. But a lot of people just buy for pure sustenance. And I would say about half my customers are sick. They've had cancer. They got autoimmune disease. They got something wrong with them that when they got on our beef, it corrected it. And I think it's just, it isn't something that I intentionally did. I think it's the way that God made it, because they're up in those mountains. There's 2,200, my wife knows this because she knows these plants. There's 2,200 different plants up on those mountains. Most people I know in this country who raise grass-fed beef are on like 5 different plants. 5. They're going up there eating hundreds and hundreds of different plants a day. Okay. So I got this friend of mine. He became a friend, but he started studying our beef before we became friends because he asked me to send him samples. So all told, I've sent him about 100 samples now, all from cattle up there on the range. And he's identified about 900 different compounds in our beef. And Cole, what's fascinating about it is they're all plant compounds. They're not like beef compounds. They're plant compounds. These are plant compounds. And I think the way you and I, our ancestors, no matter where you are from the world, I don't care where you're from, but we all ate, in prehistory, before the development of food and farms and all this stuff, we all ate wild food. So our genome is actually really closely connected in design, through adaptation. And we've evolved along the way with the plants we're eating, and our genome changed to be maximized on those plants. That's where health came from for us. And I think that's what we've lost our way on with food in this country. We've simplified these things down to monocultures: corn, soybeans, wheat, barley. and we eat these very, very simple foods. It just have no nutritional diversity to them. So all these people, they start eating this beef. It's got all these. Guess what? It's got plant chemicals in it. Not, it's got taurine. It's got omega-3 fatty acids instead of omega-6 fatty acids, which are really good cancer-fighting omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-6s can be the things that cause heart disease and all these things. But anyway, our beef tipped the balance the other way. Feedlot beef goes omega-6 higher. Our beef goes omega-3 higher, just like wild salmon. And it's because they're eating all this wild material up there. They're eating all these different plants. So anyway, that's why I think it's resonant. It causes a nutritional resonance in health for people who are sick. So we've even seen it. Like, we had a little cat with distemper. We have a bunch of cats around because we don't put out rodent poison or anything like that. So, we got one or two house cats. But this one little kitty got distemper real bad, and my wife likes him. And she said, well, we're just going to feed him our beef. Most people try to doctor for distemper. Most animals die from distemper and parvo, for dogs. She just put him on her beef. Just said, we're going to give him a little bit of beef every day, and we'll see how he does. Anyway, it's fantastic. She saved 3 or 4 cats this way that had distemper. Distemper usually wipes them out. So I think what's happening is they're getting all those chemicals, that are critical for health. And we're missing it in Costco burger. We're missing it in Walmart burger. Okay. We're missing it in like Burger King burger. It's because we've dumbed down the nutritional plane on these cows so bad by taking away their ability to choose what they should eat. A friend of mine really nailed it one day. And it's this Dr. Fred Provenza. He's become a pretty close friend. He's been out on the ranch a couple of times. We're up on the range. He knows all these range plants. He's a wildland nutritionist. He's studied like wild animals and their nutrition for his entire life. And he's written books. He's published hundreds of times, and he's such an easy guy to get along with. I wish you could spend some time with him, Cole. He's fascinating. But anyway, we're up there, and we're looking at this one steer who's grazing right by us up there on the range on the side of a mountain. And he said, look at what he's eating. And I said, well, what's that? He said, well, he's eating yarrow. And I said, yeah, they eat a lot of yarrow. He said, do they? I said, yeah, they eat a lot of yarrow. And he said, take a look at his back with me. And I said, yeah, what about it? He said, he's got no flies on. And most cattle in America are covered with flies, So that's why we use insecticide fly tag. We don't, but that's why most people in the cattle business use insecticide fly tags that rub this insecticide all over them. And back before we were organic, I tried fly tags, and Nicole, there was one time I couldn't sleep all night because my head was pounding all night. And it's because we were using organophosphate fly tags, which real common pesticide ear tag. And it kills flies like crazy, but it was killing me. I mean, I got really sick for a few days anyway, that ended that. After that, we became organic, and it's like, I don't ever want to go back. I have been poisoned I used to work in conventional agriculture all the time. And in fact, I'm writing a story for my blog just about this. There's a little bit of a rabbit trail. My legs were on fire from the chemical burns. Even worse, my eyes stung and tears that rolled out and fogged my vision. I squinted, straining to see the end of the field, but couldn't quite make it out. The 5-gallon bucket I was carrying was almost empty. I wondered how many more of the 40-pound pails were waiting for me at the end of the cornfield. Despite the burn of the midday sun on my shoulders, there was rain in the forecast, and my boss, Paul, had left me to scatter a side dressing of ammonium nitrate fertilizer in one of his remote sweet corn fields that served up the homegrown goodness to the distant citizens of New York City. I was sick all the time from this crap. People are like, why are you such an organic whack job? And it's because I've had enough. I'm up to here with it, Cole. I've been around all the conventional crap, and it's wrong. It's wrong for our health. It's wrong for the animals' health. It's wrong for the land health. There's nothing good about it. It's toxic. We've gotten a toxic agriculture. I just read an article about a friend of mine who relayed this to me. It didn't happen to him, but a friend of his was putting corn in the ground and almost burned himself to death completely by accident by getting anhydrous poison. The anhydrous line blew off. Anhydrous is it looks like a propane tank on wheels. You inject it in the ground with your corn seed. It's like injected fertilizer. You're injecting anhydrous ammonium nitrate in the ground there and fertilizing the ground. Anyway, this stuff is so toxic that if that hose comes off and hits you, it could kill you in minutes. Okay. This guy's almost dead. He manages to crawl on his belly all the way back to the house. He's just getting over it. And I'm like, what the crap are we doing where farmers get burned because they're growing corn from a toxic? It's weird. The whole thing is so weird to me. But anyway, so that's why we're sick. That's why these people are sick. But anyway, they get our beef in them and they start coming around. So that's our customer base. That's where all that comes from. And, it's just exciting to see them recover that way. I mean, we charge a ton for our ribeyes. Even our ground beef is expensive, but we've had people call us and say, you know what? I only need to eat a half the beef that we used to, even though I want to eat more because it's so good. I'm full after half the beef I used to eat from Walmart or from Costco, because this is nutritionally dense. And my body says, you've satisfied it. I'm good. And I think we've lost attention to paying attention to our bodies and saying what's enough or what's not. It's why we eat Doritos, right? It's called the Dorito effect. It's got all these flavor compounds in there that keep tricking our body. It feels satisfying when it hits our tongue, but we're not getting nutrition. So our body is saying, you need to eat more. That's good. You're going down the right road. Nutritionally, that tastes right. But your body gets disappointed when it goes down into your gut and says, wait. Everything I was told that was in that stuff you're eating doesn't exist. And so, but your palate says, oh, should eat more. So that's why we get obese on all this crazy, stupid food. It's because of food additives and flavorings that they're trying to trick our bodies with, So to sum it all up, Cole, the world's messed up and it's okay. I don't get hopeless. I'm actually full of hope because there's another way and it's better, and it's fun. Agriculture's fun. I just went to a grazing meeting or a cattleman's meeting the other night and everybody in there is mad. There's 60 cattlemen in this room with me and they're mad. And my kids are like, why was everybody mad in there, Dad? And they're mad because they're losing their crap, man. They can't make it. It's frustrating. It's hard work. And they're not making jack did. They're not making any money. It's fun when you make money. It starts to get fun again.
So what would you say is your best seller? Like, what would you highly recommend if somebody were to buy something off of the website?
Oh, I would just buy the ground beef, Cole. I mean, I know that sounds crazy. I'd buy the fatty ground beef. And people are like, wait, the fatty ground. And you'll see, it's the stupidest thing in the world. When people realized that our fat was actually heart healthy for you, they started saying, send me fatty. I want only fat. So anyway, what's stupid is that we started selling out all the fatty beef. And so I have to raise the price to try to have it flow out at the same rate. The other stuff's got a lot of fat in it too. It's 85-15. But man, the ground beef, it's just, if you like a burger, it's the best dang burger you'll ever eat. I mean, it is the best dang burger you'll ever eat. And it's because, you know what? I eat a lot of burgers and sometimes when I don't travel a lot, but once a month I got to go to a conference or something like that. And I'll eat a burger there. And it's like, wow. I mean, Cole, when have you last been in a supermarket? When
Yes.
today? Yesterday?
Yesterday.
Okay, yesterday. Okay. So get in your mind's eye and think about that supermarket. And, one thing I've really noticed about supermarkets lately is that, maybe you're in a Kroger, okay? Maybe it's a Wegmans. You're in one of those two stores and you go down those aisles, and maybe it's aisle 13 in this store, but half of aisle 13 is steak sauce and condiments. Okay, stuff you put with meat. Okay? Why the crap are we doing this? What happened to America that we got to flavor our food so much? And I would submit to you, either the beef doesn't taste like anything because there's no plant chemicals in there, there's no compounds to make it interesting, okay? Or number two, it tastes bad. And I've had a lot of bad, okay? I go to a restaurant when I'm traveling and it's like, holy cow, that burger was actually really bad, And you put the A1 all over it, trying to mitigate it, but it's still not enough because it's like, whoa, And then you maybe don't eat all of it because your body's saying, don't eat all that burger because you're going to get sick and throw up tonight. Or maybe you're just going to feel indigestion all night, So, yeah, I mean, the ribeyes, fantastic. Best steak out there. Okay. But Cole, I don't know, maybe you're wealthy. I can't afford to eat them. And I own the steaks. I can't afford to eat them because I can sell. The girls and I posted this week's inventory. We kill every 2 weeks. We harvest beef every 2 weeks. So we harvest 15 head of beef, fat cattle, every 2 weeks, all the way through the year. We sell out of everything every 2 weeks. All those 15 head are gone, 100%. Freezer's empty. 350 cases of beef, 6 tons. Cole, 6 tons of meat go every 2 weeks in boxes all across America. We put it in. I'm the one who actually sorts your order for you. But and don't get me wrong, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying this is a movement in America where people are actually desperate for good food. They're desperate. Anyway, so those ribeyes that I was telling you about, Cole, it's still a hand-to-mouth existence in agriculture. Don't get me wrong. I'm not getting rich off this. I got a huge mortgage. I got this gigantic ranch mortgage, but we're able to cash flow. We're able to cash flow, and we're able to buy. I bought a Toyota Sequoia just a couple months ago. It's a 2008. And it's like one of the newest cars we've ever had. It's almost 20 years old, but it's a solid car, and I got a friend who runs a junkyard and he put it back together for me. I only have to give $6,000 for it, but that's the kind of vehicles we drive. We don't have any trappings of money on us because, like I talked about, we're pouring the money on the land, or, maybe we'll buy some more cows or something like that. So, you're always, so anyway, the ribeyes are gone. We posted them last night at 10 p.m. Okay. They're gone. All this week's ribeyes are gone. Cole, you know how much a stupid ribeye sells for? Have you looked?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, they're between $60 and $100. Okay, one steak. Okay, and they are gone in a matter of hours. And it's because people get turned on to them who got money. I mean, like I said, I could never do this, but they get turned on to them. They got money, and they're like, "This is the best dang ribeye I have ever eaten in my life. And plus, I feel good after I ate it." I got people write me online that say, "Oh my gosh, I ate one of your ribeyes for lunch. Usually, if I eat a 1-pound ribeye for lunch, I feel sick and I feel like I got to go to bed." You know what these people are? They're energized and ready to tackle the rest of the day because it's what their body's been eating. And I'm not giving you some foo-foo BS here. I'm telling you the God's honest truth. And I don't need to sell ribeyes, so don't tell them to sell ribeyes. They're sold out. Okay, I guarantee right now, if they look, they're gone. Maybe there's a few left of the leaner ones, but all the fatty, nice ones are gone. They're history. So buy the ground beef. But here's the crazy thing about ground beef, Cole. I took a picture. It was, on my phone. I could show it to you if I had time. With with my kids. And with like 3 of my ranch hands, we're sitting in front of our fulfillment shop where we pack all these boxes to send out. And we're holding together a 1 pound pack of ground beef. This never happened to me. I've done this for 30 years. It's the last pound. I have never, now we sell out ground beef every week. You know, literally tons of ground beef. Sell out every week. And people can't get enough. And I think, that's where we need to be with food. When you got nutrition density in food and people can actually eat less, and find out that, oh my gosh, I don't even need that much because I'm satisfied. I'm finding satisfaction. Instead of freaking Doritos or going to McDonald's and eating their French fries, they all have flavor adjustments in them that are put together by PhDs and lab coats who know how human taste and flavoring works. I guarantee you, there's books about it. A friend of mine, Mark Schatzker, wrote one called The Dorito Effect. If your people read it all, have them read that book because it's an eye-opener how toxic the flavoring industry is and how they have adjusted the flavor of food to dupe us into eating more of it while we're seeking for nutrition, Anyway, fascinating stuff. And, it's by the ground beef. Crap, we got all kinds of stuff on there. The salmon is super duper. The steaks are fantastic. I'm very happy. One thing they aren't mushy tender. I've eaten, commercial steaks that are mushy tender. It's like I don't need to eat my steak with a spoon. I actually like a steak that has something that I can sink my teeth into. You know what I mean? I mean that's weird to me. Like Wagyu beef, I got no interest in it. And so the steaks are good, but we got all kinds of sausages. There's everything: hot dogs, fish, cheeses. Anything can ask for from the cows there. Bones, oxtails. There's one thing that really has taken off that I had no idea it would. But we got this package. It's a 12-ounce package of ground. And we had to come up with a name. And it's called Wild Hunter Blend. Wild Hunter Blend. And we started it because of our dogs. And we give our dogs kibble, but they also get this every day. They get some Wild Hunter Blend, and they eat kibble because it's whatever. It's just they get bored and they'll eat because they're bored. But their real nutrition comes from Wild Hunter. So the Wild Hunter has got liver in it, kidney, and heart, along with ground beef. We sell out of that crap every week. I mean, people. I got to tell you this. People, it's for the dogs and cats, right? But people eat it too because they're looking for that organ meat. And I got a lot of people that just buy it for themselves. They'll buy 50 pounds of it for themselves. And it's 100% human grade. It's not pet food. It's 100% human grade. It's our beef. It's our livers. It's not weird stuff that we buy. It's certified organic. It's our stuff. So it's 100% human grade. Anyway, I got a friend of mine from New York City. And him and his wife worked together in downtown. And they were going to get on the subway. And he said, this weird thing happened to me on the way to the subway, Clan. And I said, what do you got? And he's talking to me on the phone. He said, well, okay, let me just give you some backstory because you sent us that beef last week. And my wife makes this spaghetti the night before. Incredible. Okay, incredible sauce, full of your meat. Said it was like the best spaghetti sauce I've ever had. So he said, we're feeding it to kids, we're eating it, loving life. And he said, I take out the trash and I find out she accidentally fed us all Wild Hunter in the spaghetti sauce. I said, yeah, so what's the big deal, Mike? And he said, well, I thought that was like for your dogs. I said, well, yeah, most people do feed their dogs because their dogs need all those critical. By the way, dogs don't eat sweet potatoes. They don't eat corn. They don't eat rice. All that is BS in dogs. It should not even be there. It has no business. We have 8 dogs. They've never eaten a sweet potato. They've never eaten rice. They don't eat that. They eat bones and beef. That's what they eat. that's what dogs are making. Wolves up there, you think they're going around, downtown to the grocery store and say, hey, I think I really need some sweet potatoes right now. And maybe some carrots. That's just total BS marketing stuff that it's in dog food. It's got no business in dog food. Dog food, top of the food chain predator. That's what they eat. Okay. Some of it's pretty rotted. It's been laying around for a while. When they find it, still, they're predisposed for it. That's what they should be eating. Anyway, he said, yeah, Glenn, this is like dog food. And he said, what struck me and what made me call you is my wife and I are on the way to the subway. And we're walking down a sidewalk in Brooklyn. And he said, something happened that really stuck in my mind. And it wasn't until I got off the train here in downtown Manhattan. I wanted to call you and just see if this thing happens often. I said, what do you got? He said, Glenn, every time my wife passed a fire hydrant, she sniffed it. What is that? He said, does that happen to you guys? I said, take care, Mike. Have a good day.
I like it. Glenn, I really appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on. It was honestly a giant learning experience just to be able to hear, the things that you do and just take it. You can read about it online and everything, but it's just a whole different level to actually have a conversation with you. And I truly do appreciate it.
You bet. Good deal. All right. Well, it's just, I just love to visit with people. And, and also I just love to share that there's hope. There's hope in agriculture. But we got to embrace it. You and I do as the eaters of food. If we just keep eating the crap, for one thing, we're going to suffer, but agriculture is going to suffer too because it's continuance. We're going to keep putting up with the crap, So anyway, I mean, for me, it's cool because I get to share the truth and, where there's hope in agriculture when we hear that there's no hope.
But with that is a wrap on yet another episode of the Roughnecks podcast. Go and try some of the meat. I will have the website in the episode description if you want to try that yourself. But until Wednesday, where we will be back with another episode of Reno's Rants. You guys know the deal. Life is hard and is going to knock you down just like a bull does to a bull rider. Don't let that bull of life walk all over you. Get up, grab the bull by the horns, and take control of your life. Roughnecks out.